This feels like graduation day. And it feels like you've all grown taller since we first met, at least as writers. When we first proposed this course to the STI, a writing workshop for teachers, I heard the usual skepticism as to why teachers would not sign up. Teachers have a lot on their plate. It's tough to be creative when you're tired. Writing is hard. All of that is true, but it disqualifies the X factor, which is all of you. Teachers who want more than what they have been given. You want more, you want better for yourselves and your students. Maybe what you want is to rekindle a creative fire. Maybe you need encouragement to pursue what you know you can be. Or perhaps it's just the need for breathing space to collect and process your thoughts, which can get pretty heavy, especially when attempting to function on 4 hours of sleep. But no one complains about hard work as long as it's meaningful and gratifying. When we encourage our students' writing, we hold them to high expectations, but we always strive to make the experience relevant to them. Writing is an essential communication skill, no matter what one's role in life might be. But who knows? If we as teachers teach the writing process with empathy and keep the experience purposeful, maybe some of our students will go on and write as a way of life. Write poetry, novels, screenplays, and songs. Why not them? Why not you? Why not us? Writing is hard work, but it can also be therapeutic. It's used as therapy to ease the pain of those who have lost loved ones, are suffering from PTSD, or recovering from addictions. Writing helps us process and cope so that the daily barrage of things that land at our feet become more manageable, more tolerable. It gives us the breathing space we need, physically and emotionally. During each session of our course, we read aloud and wrote about life in crisis. We reflected heavily on our personal teaching experiences the last 2 years, but in one of our sessions, Stephen, our inspiring writing workshop teacher, asked us to consider writing about something we hadn't yet written about. And it occurred to me that I really want to know how the experiences of the last couple of years will transform us. How will we come out of this when the pandemic is over? My initial writing off Stephen's prompt was bitter. I set my sights on that common wish for a return to normalcy, and I would think, why would we want to go back to a way of life that lacked the humanity that would be needed to deal with a humanitarian crisis? The pandemic should have prompted a global rallying cry in which we all came together as one to face an existential threat head on. I would go on to write cynically about a giant asteroid hurtling towards planet Earth as its people argued about who's to blame for it, or whether the asteroid actually existed. There would be no Hollywood-like ending in my story, no Bruce Willis and his ensemble of oddball heroes to save us from the asteroid's impact, and the massive fireball that would sweep through the planet, memorializing our mass social dysfunction as finger-pointing silhouettes on the sides of ruined buildings. If we walk back in time towards these so-called days of normalcy, we'd witness a series of incidents that revealed a gradual loss of kindness, trust, gratitude, and community. How do you pretend that that didn't happen? But more important, how do we move forward from this? Again, my initial writing was bitter. But as I mentioned before, writing can be therapeutic. So I looked for historical examples in which people lost their sense of humanity while others relied on their faith in it. Turns out I didn't have to search too far. After the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, all residents of Japanese descent on the west coast of the United States were removed from their homes by the U.S. military and incarcerated at remote camps surrounded by barbed wire and miles of barren land. They were only allowed to take a few personal belongings that they could carry, forced to leave behind their homes, their businesses, and other valuable personal possessions. My aunt and uncle were taken from their home in San Francisco and sent to one desert camp in Gila River, Arizona. When my aunt was alive, she did not talk much about her experiences at Gila River, but she surprised me with what she recalled. She told me that despite being located in a desert, they grew great melons there. She said the Japanese farmers knew how to work the dry land to grow a type of melon that had never been grown on that land before. Later in life, I would look into it, and sure enough, many of the Japanese who were imprisoned in Gila River were farmers from California. So they did what came naturally, and they worked the land. They ultimately developed an irrigation system that allowed them to grow all kinds of produce, including a radish called daikon, which is a staple in a Japanese meal. They harvested so much produce, they were able to provide for other Japanese incarceration camps around the country. They never lost faith in themselves or others and remained committed to the importance of family and community, even though they had been deliberately shamed and diminished by those in power. They never lost sight of their commitment to those who had come after them. In Japanese, this is called densho. In English, densho means legacy. And I ask, what would be our legacy as members of this community? Parents, civic leaders, educators, and students who worked in untenable terrain ravaged by a global pandemic. How will we come together to help our students grow forward from the days of learning in a pandemic? How will we use these experiences to improve the environment for teaching and learning for those that follow us into the classroom? We might not have these answers yet. Maybe as a whole society or large community, we're not even ready for the hard work that lies ahead. But I know that in our writing workshop, we've built something special. We did the types of things that build healthy communities. We listened to one another. We offered our colleagues encouragement and kindness as they shared intimate aspects of their lives. In the end, we built a small community that rests on a solid foundation of trust. Maybe this is the blueprint for rebuilding our sense of normalcy. And it occurs to me, this is how we should come out in the end. This is our legacy.